see the deadness in my face? That's the joy that Sony sucked out of my soul. I bought a camera once. It was a Sony, as they call it in England. Frickin' immediate regret. Sure, it was the best camera I ever seen. But did they support it with firmware updates? They did not. The Sony firmware frog refuses to leap, my friend. You wait patiently, thinking, oh, he's gonna jump towards my camera eventually. He will not. He will not move. Today we discuss why Sony trails the industry. I've never seen anyone shooting on a Sony.
All I want is the perfect camera. All I want is the perfect camera.
I spotted the black vultures, and they noticed that I had a Sony a7S III camera. They could tell, due to the lack of firmware support, that it would be dead in a couple minutes. They decided to swarm me. They knew it was only a matter of time for their next meal. The one on the right is about to... Oh, what'd she do? Oh God, what was that? Oh, that was uncalled for. That's the mating ritual they have when they swarm a Sony camera. I've seen it before. We're on the disgusting Sony a7S III, of course, with the 200 to 600. I cannot believe that I actually saw these turkey vultures. I've never seen them like just resting, perching on a tree branch, if you will. I've seen them soaring like 15 miles in the air, and it's like, oh, that'd be a nice shot if you ever came down to reality sometime. But I saw them, Black Death awaiting, and they swarmed. And then it happened. I heard a click, a shutter sound. Someone down below was using a Sony a7S III, and he realized that it was a firmware 2.0 or something that last updated about a year and a half ago, and he just pounced. He went for it, deep diving. It was a false alarm, my friend. It was actually an FX30, which is updated healthfully and often. Every second week, I think, they get a new firmware update because it's a lower class item. Doesn't matter what we want, or A7S III, but whatever. Do I seem bitter? I'm not. I'm happy with the purchase. I got a comment the other day when I released that first firmware rant / wildlife video genre. It's a thing. And someone was like, oh, here he is jumping on the bandwagon of people bashing Sony for firmware up. Like, what are you talking about? That's not even a wagon. Nobody's on that wagon. We're just noticing that frickin' it's a little suspicious that A7S III, same processor, same sensor as the FX3, but only one is getting the updates. We get nothing. And then the lower tiered items get more features than our more expensive line, and the flagship A1, higher than all, gets nothing. I'm embarrassed for all of us. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean the Sony a7S III sucks. It's still the best camera known to date, except the Blackmagic OG, of course, filming us in 12-bit RAW glory in my living room with mixed lighting sources. I'm a movie. It still has like the sharpest 4K 120p you could get. I saw this song sparrow on this railing, and I tried to get closer and closer to him, and it was a fun little adventure. First I was pretty far away, then I moved over to this ledge part. He's like, what are you doing? Are you still filming me? You're not gonna kill me, right? I can sing, you don't mind me singing, do you? Okay, so he's chilling. Fugly bokeh in the background, no problem with that. Then I got even closer. He's like, okay, what's up? Why you keep pushing up on me? I'm calling for help now. This is no longer a song. I'm calling that vulture couple to steal your stupid firmwareless camera. I can tell they don't update it. Then I punched right in there. I got to the side. He was like, okay, I don't mind you. I see that you're useless. I could take you out in one shot if I had to. I can see all your weak points. I'm calling off the vulture attack. Don't worry about this. You step up on me, though, one more time. It's on. I did step, and he looked at me like, okay, buddy, do you have any idea how busy I am right now? I have so many things to collect, beetles to crush, women to mingle with. The wind took his hair, and he fluffed around, and it was a magical shot. No help to Sony, of course. And then this was the end game. This is as close as I could get before he took off. And there he is. Song Sparrow. Name's Ted. His name's Ted. Oh yeah. He has 4 wives. You know, I should have known the Sony a7S III was a dud when that custom wheel button needed to be pressed down while you turn it. I was like, that was so annoying in the beginning, and then I was like, it's almost a deal breaker. And every time I switch, it annoys me. I still have to do that. That was the writing on the wall that I should have left for Pentax immediately. Just get a Ricoh GR3 for wildlife. When I told this Red-winged blackbird that my a7S III was not being supported by Sony, he was like, what? No way, let me see that thing. Are you serious? They're not giving firmware updates to it? I could have sworn. All my eggshells get firmware updates from Canon. Really? He couldn't believe it. I refused to believe it. I don't know, it's a good system, but I'm waiting. As soon as I see something in the realm of just matching Sony a7S III specs, full frame of course, from Canon or Nikon, and that 200 to 600 Nikon, I'm just saying that, and the Z30 with the 12 to 28 mil for vlogging, all bases covered in a Nikon system, and I will bash Sony so hard. You have no idea. You think you could have a filmic look like you're witnessing right now? I doubt it. Ever. I know it's utter trash, but whatever. You know something funny that nobody's talking about? Canon is known as like the #1 camera company in the world for like, what, 50 years since they were birthed by Mitsubishi? I think like it's been a long time since Sony's overtaken them in the mirrorless world. DSLRs don't really count. Like, who cares about the professional Super Bowl shooters? Like, they're the only group of shooters who literally survive off popcorn and hot dogs brought to them by those little vendors with the buckets. And then they're like, throw me a hot dog. And then the mustard goes everywhere. These aren't important genres of people. Mirrorless is the future, and Sony went for it. They focused on video, full frame, tiny size. They lead the industry now. Canon's not #1, they're #2. Not even deserving that space on the podium. Frickin' Olympus belongs up there. Not that I would choose Canon for literally any task, but whatever. Sony, you had your chance in the wind. You took #1 spot. Not bad. Congratulations. But what are you doing with it? Are you helping those who... You know what's the weirdest thing? Sony says that they listen to customers, always, whenever I'm in a meeting, which I'll probably be banned from, if not already banned. They say, like, oh, we added these features because you guys asked for them. Well, we're all asking you to update the damn a7S III with the ZV-E10 features. Please. Everyone is saying it. We're actually mad now, like it's boiling our blood, to the point where we're debating switching systems if another company could even catch up to your technology, which nobody can. Catch up to your technology, which nobody can, because you have reptilian shit. It's not even invented yet by the village people who make the other Nikon systems. A bunch of bullshit. Frickin' cavemen with beards. Calm down. The turtles are back. They have thawed themselves out. They were waiting for a Sony firmware update. They realized it wasn't going to happen, so they just came to the surface. Little did they know it's snowing today, and they're all dead. They're all dead, just like our hopes and dreams. In this slide, you can see your Sony a7S III camera on the left, and a Sony firmware update coming to it. And if you were wondering why it's taking so long, because it's a turtle on a log with no ability to be delivered to your camera. Somebody left a comment saying, oh, don't worry, somebody told me that Sony is working on the firmware, it's coming out later on. Don't give me hope and lie to me. That's more annoying than a lack of firmware updates. When people are like, oh, I heard this. You made it up in your own mind. It was very obvious. It better be coming. It better be true. If it's not, I know who to blame. I'll save that comment. Pin you up on my wall. You know, maybe it's not possible for some reason. The a7S III it doesn't have something in it that the FX3 can do these things. A7 IV can, but sorry, we can't. Just come out and say it. Tell me then. Make a little announcement saying, sorry guys, we can't put these features in. It's not even on the radar. Like, I would accept it. But like, we're hoping. We think it could happen. It's not. Ever. But as far as I know, the only difference between the A7S III and the FX3 is the FX3 has a fan. And it's like, okay, you're definitely capable of shooting for longer, but I've never even come close to an overheat warning on the A7S III. Out in the summer, shooting 4K 120 all the time, waiting for frogs to move, for Sony firmware frogs. Nothing. No warning. It's fine. Update it. I got a duck flying. I could tell he was about to take off, and I was like, oh, I better get this ready, 240 frames. I should have pressed record. I knew he was gonna take off, but whatever. I missed the takeoff, but I got some of it. And it was glorious. Autofocus, kept up with him, little bucks. Then he flew behind some trees and all hell broke loose. There was a woman in the background, bunch of bullshit, giant woman with the compression, but the cinema was ours. So I can't wait to switch to Nikon. It'll be the funnest time I ever had in my life. So you're done, Sony. You laughed one too many frogs out of the lake. You freak company. How you doing? Are you buying a Camera Conspiracies t-shirt? Do you have any idea how uncomfortable this is? My table cuts off, my rib is slicing right into it. There's nowhere to rest. Filming with the Blackmagic camera in here is really irritating. But the cinema's ours. 12-bit RAW. Do you have that, Sony? You don't. You suck. I'm gonna go. Subscribe for more when I'm saying it.